Good morning. Good morning, sweetie. Hi. Let me let me send the request. Why every morning I get on here and I cannot remember how to do this request? Oh, here it is. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Rushing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mom asking me to do stuff at the last
Oh,
minute.
okay. I fully understand that. Yeah. If I was in Barbados, it would be the same thing. I'm drinking tea, by the way, and it's not spiked.
Oh, that's too bad.
For my friends who know me, I have to say that. All right, so we can start because I'm not one of these people that gotta wait till a bunch of people get on the live to get it going. All right, we just um, keep it rolling. You see, my friend Candy Fab, she's laughing at me with a spiked drink because she knows how I roll sometimes. All right, so how should I address you? Let's start there because there's a set of names here and titles. How should I address you?
Uh, well, I mean, it depends. I mean, a lot of people call me Baba. There
Mm-hmm.
are people who address me as Ṣàngódaré. But
Ṣàngódaré.
Ṣàngódaré is fine. Baba,
Ṣàngódaré is fine. What does that name mean? And how did you get that name? Because I know your birth name is Christopher Brown. How did you
Dara
get Ṣàngódaré?
that I received when I was initiated to the priesthood of Shango.
Okay.
2000. Every
Okay.
time I go through initiation, I get a new name. This is why
Ah.
I got so many names I can't remember them all.
Yeah, I saw that in your bio. Yeah. So you're a
But it,
teacher, a priest. You're breaking in and out a little bit, actually. We're losing you.
ah,
Yeah.
am I still here?
Yeah, you're still there.
The name Dare means to exonerate. So when they say Shango Dare, it means Shango exonerates me. Brings
Ah.
finds me innocent. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're a teacher, a priest, a writer, a lecturer, a researcher, an international traveler. Then you lecture and teach about spiritual systems of African numerology and astrology. That's a lot. And you've lived in Egypt for a number of years. What were you doing over in Egypt?
I was teaching mathematics and Egyptology, Egyptian history.
Okay. And how was that experience for you? How many years were you there?
8 years.
8 years. Yeah, because someone commented on the flyer that that's something that they would like to experience being in that energy there in Egypt. And I usually with when I doing my flyers, I include myself on it. But that picture was so powerful, I just allowed you to tell the story of what today's live was going to be. So numerology, I'm now coming into it, and you being my teacher, and trying to fully understand what numbers play in our lives. And I didn't realize until speaking with you how this number thing is so profound in how I am as a person and how I'm living my life and what to expect. My date of birth, the numbers that are attached to my name, is very intense. So in layman's terms, can you tell me what is numerology?
Numerology is a study of numbers,
Hmm.
life. It governs everything you can ever imagine. It uncovers the mysteries. It gives you strengths, your likeness. It gives you your destiny, your purpose. Whatever you can imagine, if you understand how to pull back the veil of the mystery of the numbers, then most definitely can be revealed. It's like what Galileo said back in the day. Mathematics is the language that God wrote the universe. So numbers are the foundation of any science. It is the foundation of any religion, any spiritual system. It is the foundation. It's almost like imagining, say you are a person who's genes. Like if you go get a DNA test and they are able to say, oh, this person has blue eyes, or this person has brown eyes, this person has the they may have a issue in their genes where they likely may get diabetes or have cardiovascular issues based upon their DNA. Numerology is very similar, but we are able to go in not just on the physical, level, but also on the mental, emotional, spiritual level, where we can go in and look at previous incarnations or previous lives, to brought you into this world and why you came in this life. What is your purpose? What did you come to? You know, what are your strengths? You know, what is your karmic debt? Why are you here? And what can you do to enhance yourself and be in harmony with your environment and with yourself?
Right. Okay. So because my name is set, my date of birth is set, can you say that a numerology reading is just a playbook of someone's life? Because the date of birth is not going to change. You know, you have that name, even if you change it, it's still your name. So can it be stated that numerology is, a playbook of who you are and how your life is going to play out? And
Yeah,
is it just this one reading that you would need to get then?
it's your blueprint. You know,
Okay.
it's very similar to an astrological chart. Or if you are in the traditional African religion, like your Odu, okay, it expands and contracts. It's a living thing. So even though your name is permanent, you have the potential to expand or contract within that energy.
Okay.
If you understand.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I understand.
And then
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So when you understand that,
Right.
you are able to identify what are some of the things you can do to raise the frequency, or what you need to do to change the resonance of your vibration to enhance your blueprint. I mean, I give you an example. What
Please
if
do.
you're a person, it says you are a builder. You're a person that's very analytical. You're good in numbers. You have the ability to be an engineer. You have the ability to be an architect. You have the ability to do all these things. But you didn't focus on education as a child. You didn't really focus on your true potential when you were younger. Well, you will play out that energy, but you may not be an architect. You may not be an engineer. You may be somebody who is good around the house and can build things and build shelves, and not to belittle those trades, but you may have had the potential to be a great architect or a great engineer, but
Right.
now you're just somebody who is good with their hands or good with
Right.
building things around the house or for your family or something like that.
So we have all these different types of readings. I do the spiritual side of reading. You do the numerology, the astrology, and then we have the Ifa reading. We have all these different systems that we can tap into to assist. And some folks may find that having all this different information could be confusing, right? What makes numerology, and I know you study the rest and you also, do the other readings, but what makes numerology where some people say, you know what, this is the one I need to stick with. This is the blueprint I'm going to follow. This is what I need to connect with. Why this one? Why that?
Well, I look at it that it may be the easiest one that you have access to. So
Okay.
in other words, if you're dealing with astrology, it's like you gotta learn so many different uh, things. Like, okay, what is the aspect? What degree is this? What is the angle? What is this, that, and the other? But
Mhm.
numerology can be. I mean, it gets that in depth in
Mhm.
numerology, but it's also very simple. You may want to know, well, what is my monthly energy? What is the energy am I going to
Ah.
have this month? Well, it's very simple. You take the day you're born, you add it to the month you're born,
Mhm.
and then add it to the current month. In other words,
Mhm.
like today is we're in the month of August.
Mhm.
My I'm born on the 17th of September.
Mhm.
So what I do is I take 1 and the 7, which is the 17th, which is the
Mhm.
8th. I add
Mhm.
it to the month, which is a 9, so that's 17. And then I
Mhm.
add it to the current year. I'm sorry, not the current year, but the
The birth
yeah,
year.
to the current year to get my personal year,
Oh,
which,
okay.
and then I will be a year 3. But then
Mhm.
for my month, I just add it to the current month, and so
Mhm.
that means I would be in a month 2, which means I
Mhm.
would simplify the energy of the 2, which deals with collaborations,
Mhm.
partnership, things that we're doing right now.
Right.
Like I'm on your show,
Mhm.
so I'm building relationships. I'm building, collaboration projects and things like that. And
Mhm.
the 2 also deals with unexpectedness, things that may come up unexpected. This was unexpected for me. So it,
Yeah.
it deals, so just the simple calculations can give you some deep insights of what to look forward to. And there are many cycles, from monthly cycles, yearly cycles, daily cycles, weekly cycles. And when you
Mhm.
understand how all of that works, you have a context, you
Mhm.
have like a template to work with.
Mhm.
So if I'm
Mhm.
working with numerology, but I'm also a Ifa priest, and I understand Odu, and the
Mhm.
Odu comes down, right?
Mhm.
I already have a context of what the reading is going to be about, because I
Mhm.
understand the numbers, the template of the universe.
Right.
Because that Odus can have so many, it's vast. You may have 800 verses per one Odu.
Mhm.
But if I know the numbers, I understand the context. So instead of me trying to draw from all those different verses, I
Mhm.
automatically know the context before
Right.
before the client even sits down,
Mhm. Because you have the numbers.
because I have the numbers.
Because you have the numbers. I also want to say, if you guys have any questions, just put it in the chat, and I'll ask. Well, one of the questions is, which I knew was going to come up, is what is Odu? Because a lot of folks who are joining the live are not familiar with these different systems that we're talking about and different terminology. And a lot of them really want to see what is, where do they start, right? So, in layman terms, can you explain what the Odu is,
Uh,
please?
in this context, Odu is an energy pattern, and that energy pattern conveys information about what this particular pattern represents, or what this particular pattern means. In the
Mm-hmm.
context of an individual, it houses the same thing that we would say like a numerology chart would house. It houses
Mm-hmm.
your strengths, your weaknesses, your
Mm-hmm.
dislike, your purpose. It's almost, it's just I guess you could say the Yoruba and the
Mm-hmm.
all these different African nations way of articulating the individual,
Mm-hmm.
but it's vast. I mean, it depends on the context, but based upon what we're talking about, it's the
Mm-hmm.
blueprint of an individual, and
Mm-hmm.
each one of these Odus have numerous narratives, numerous stories to help you stay in alignment with your destiny and purpose.
Okay. All right. We have a question from one of my dear friends, Paul. One of my dear friends, Paul. He's asking about the angel numbers. And when you keep seeing a particular pattern of numbers over and over again, what does that mean for the individual? Can you explain the angel numbers, please?
The universe is constantly speaking to us through signs and symbols. Okay, numbers are a part of that. So when you see repetitive numbers, this is the numerologist's way of saying these are angelic or angel numbers, because when you see numbers continuously being repetitive, the universe is trying to get your attention. So 11, 222, 444, 666, 999. So the universe is trying to get your attention and saying, look, listen to the messages, follow the clues. So depending on what the numbers mean is trying to give you some insight of what to do or what to be observant of.
That only started really happening to me when I started doing my readings. Maybe before I wasn't just paying any attention, but as you become more deeply connected spiritually and open up yourself, all these different things start coming at you. And I would just see 555, 111, and it would relate to what was going on in my life at the time. So that and oftentimes it's comforting, because if I remember seeing 111 at a time where I was doubting myself, I wasn't sure about something, and that always speaks to your intuition, to follow your gut. You were saying something before I said that.
I don't remember, but
Okay.
but basically, when you see these repetitive numbers, this is the universe trying to get your attention. Many times, it could be trying to get your attention for something that you are, like you say, not initiating, and they want you to. But it also and everything is not always good. Some things that you may be off on, and it's trying to get your attention to bring you back in alignment. So it just
Right. You're welcome, Paul. He just thanking me for asking that number, for asking that question. If we take, because you also teach the numerology classes, if we take one of your classes, what should we expect? I know for me, let me tell you what happened to me. I would leave each class like very, always going inward as to the conversation that would come up regarding my numbers, because everything was so in alignment with what I've gotten over the years if I had a spiritual reading or Ifa reading, right? And for me, it was often caused me to pause and think about, am I going in the right direction? How is all this so connected? And to think that I'm having this numerology reading and I've had an Ifa reading maybe 5 years ago, and I'm getting the same information, the same pattern or journey in which I'm supposed to go, it always blows my mind. And not that I don't believe, but it's just a very humbling experience, I can say. So what do you usually get as a response from your clients when they come to you and they get this reading?
amazement, hope,
Fantastic.
being because not only when you get a reading from me do I tell you, all the bad or the good stuff. I also give you solutions.
Which is important.
Yeah, I give them solutions. The question you asked about what will you get if you take my class, is that what you asked?
Yeah. What can you expect from it? Like, or what would what are some of the feedback that you get from your clients once they take, because I just give mine, but there may be some other experience that may have been profound for you that you can share.
Well, many of them, people take my class for different reasons.
Right.
They take my class who want to be someone to utilize numbers in their readings. I mean, I have other Ifa priests that take my class to help give them even more insight, or from a different angle per se, of the reading that they give their client.
Right.
Then I may have someone who wants to be a professional numerologist. Then I may have some people who just want to know about themselves and learn how to read themselves, not just having a chart and say, oh, this is nice, I understand myself, but they want to continue to track themselves on a daily, a month, and yearly. So depending on who it is, I get different feedbacks, but for the most part, all of them are amazed, and all of them say that it makes most definitely a difference in their lives, because they are able to see their weaknesses and then get a solution how to go about tweaking what seems like it's a deficiency and making it.
Right. One of the questions that came up in different discussions I've had before we started here was when a number is assigned to you. Say, for instance, you are a basketball player, right? And you get, Kobe Bryant had the number 24. Or you are a soccer player. You know, when you have a number that is assigned to you in that way, does that also make an impact? How does that work?
Piggybacking on the example that you gave, Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Kobe Bryant's number was 8 when he first came in. The power, the 8 deals with control. And anytime you deal with power and control, you're dealing with ego. Okay? And if you recall, he changed his number after an incident that occurred to him, which was in Colorado, when he was accused of raping this young lady. Well, he changed his number to 24. The number 24 is associated with family. It's associated with nurturing. It's with nurturing. It's associated with love, but it's also associated with divorce. So he went from an energy that exemplifies power, control, to an energy that represents nurturing, community, love, and if fortunate, bypassing divorce. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. So do you think it's divine intervention when we get these numbers attached to us? Because I'm assuming they don't ask for a particular number. The number is given to them, right?
Well, some of them ask, some of them don't, but it's still divine.
Right. Whether they ask for it or not. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting to see how these numbers just play out, because even with a friend of mine, she says that the 3 keeps popping up with her, and it would pop up, although it's not in her date of birth, or it may not have been in her name, but let's say it's in her address, or her building number, or her telephone number, or mobile, so it's just these numbers that just keep popping up. And in that case, would you say, if you see a reoccurrence of this happening, should you consider then also getting a reading, like coming to you for, if some person keeps seeing these numbers popping up with them all the time, and not may understand what the numbers mean, or even if they don't, to find out exactly what the universe is trying to tell them?
I would most definitely say they probably would need a reading. If using your example of, she keeps seeing 3s, what if it's address, what if it's clock? Well, we need to examine, well, what does the 3 represent? What is the 3? 3 deals with creativity. That 3 represents expressing the joy of living. It represents writing, dance, music? Are you having, you exemplifying joy in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Are you exercising your creativity? Are you speaking the truth? Are you someone who is not speaking their truth, and something is going wrong with your throat, or
That's right.
throat chakra? So 3 deal with creativity. So one of the first things I would ask her is, how are you exercising your creativity?
Mm-hmm.
Are you enjoying life? Just off the bat.
Off
If
the bat, yeah.
if the six
Okay.
if the 6 keeps coming up,
Mm-hmm.
are you nurturing yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Are are you being responsible to yourself and your family, or to anything in general? Because the 6 deals with relationships, it deals with love, it deals with balance, it deals with community.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what the number represents, determines the message the universe is trying to give you.
Right. Right. Another thing I wanted to talk about is, can you have a reading for your business, right? In terms of numerology, if you have, you're an entrepreneur and you need to know what to do with your business for your career. Outside of your personal life, can I come to you and say, okay, my business isn't doing well. What should happen next?
Um,
How does that work?
First thing I would ask is, number 1, what's the name of your business? Number 2,
Ah.
have you filed? Is this a legal entity? If it's not a legal entity, what are you looking for in your business? Because the date that you may file to make it a legal entity is that business's birthday.
Ah.
So now you have a life path for your business. If you know the name of your business, of course, that name exemplifies an energy.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Yeah, because you use the numbers that are attached to it to figure out the direction you're going, right? In terms of families, because I know some mothers or fathers or connected whole families, they would take their children for a fire reading to if they get prepared for initiation and stuff like that. Is a family reading recommended as well? One, two, say my relationship is a little bit rocky. Is it a good thing then to do a couples reading? Like, how does all of that work? And in this couple reading, will you be blunt and say, listen, y'all ain't making no sense. This, y'all gotta cut it. So just talk to me about these different groups of readings and how that would work.
The couple reading, I do that. There are various ways to determine that.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has a life path of a 6, right,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody has the other person may have a life path of a 19-1 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This individual off the bat is about love, is about family.
Mm-hmm.
The person over here is about power. It's about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So from the top, I'm looking at 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
But it just depends on how the other numbers configure, which you can tell if this person is we be somewhat compatible, or if
Mm-hmm.
not, it's all about your consciousness. So you'll know what this person likes, this person dislikes. You
Mm-hmm.
this other individual will understand that, hey, instead of me always getting upset because this individual does this, that, and the other, now I understand why this person does this, that, and the other. So if you
Mm-hmm.
really want to be with this person, you may not be the most so-called compatible, but if you understand each other's energy and really love each other, you can work
Mm-hmm.
those things out based upon the configurations of those numbers. But then
Right.
there are some combinations you're like, do you really love this person?
Mm-hmm.
Because it may be a very difficult task.
Mm-hmm. So instead of me going to my priest, and I'm talking more of Christianity aspect of it before we get married, it could be suggested then that they could go and have a numerology reading, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just to see the direction in which the relationship is going.
Because
Go ahead.
also in the numerology reading,
Mm-hmm.
I can look at someone's chart and say, okay, you're getting married here. I see in 3 years you're going to go through some issues. And this is what you're going to be going through. Not to say that this person you're getting with is going to cause these issues, but understand
Mm-hmm.
you'll be going through these issues.
Mm-hmm.
You may
Right.
you may go through an illness. It may show you that you may be going through an illness in the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this illness is not an illness that may be for a week. It may be an illness that may take 2 or 3 years to recover. So
Mm-hmm.
the individual that you're with, you may be thinking, okay, does this person love me for who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Will they be with me for thick and thin if I somehow fall ill? So there are many different things to look at. And when you look at a reading, a numerology reading, it's not just for the moment. You can also see 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. In my case, I looked at my chart like in 2006, I believe. I looked at my chart and saw a time period where I would be struggling with family, relationship, illness.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out during that time period, it wasn't me personally,
Right.
but my father. And it was the time period that I ended up transitioning back here from Egypt back to the States.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to see certain things, you can start preparing yourself and understanding what's coming down the road.
The
You may not
pipeline.
know
Yeah.
all the details. You may not know all the
Mm-hmm.
details, but you will understand the energy that's coming and prepare yourself up.
Right. What I'm getting from you in our conversation is that numerology forces you to look inside, to deal with whatever is going on. Yes, we have different practices that may say, all right, you need to do this ritual or that ritual, whether it is to, recite a psalm, or go on a fast and all these other external things. But what I'm getting from you is that they're giving you, as you said earlier, a blueprint. And this blueprint is saying to you, these are the things, that is being said about you. Here are the things that you need to work on. But to work on these things, you have to go inside and deal with what you refuse to face or what you've been facing, but having struggles going through. Is that, am I
You're
on the right path with that?
most definitely on the right path. It is a system that gives you the not the ability, but it encourages you to consistently, to
Mm-hmm.
constantly self-reflect of what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. It's like if you know you're about to step into an energy that deals with relationships,
Yeah.
then you will start to realize that if I continue getting into issues with relationships and things keep blowing up, this
Mm-hmm.
can't be the other person.
Yeah.
This is my blueprint, not the other person's blueprint. So
Right.
if all of a sudden next month I'm in a month 6 and I start having clashes with my mother, or having clashes with my siblings, or I'm having clashes with my friends, and I just blame my friends, or
Mm-hmm.
this is my blueprint. So even though on the surface things may not be my fault,
Mm-hmm.
and on the surface it may be my friend's fault, but
Mm-hmm.
deep underneath the surface,
Mm-hmm.
my consciousness, my soul
Mm-hmm.
is crying out for me to learn a lesson in regards to relationships. And that
Right.
is based upon where I'm resonating with inside of myself. So
Mm-hmm.
if something on an external level
Mm-hmm.
may be supposedly someone else's fault,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still my fault,
Yeah.
because it only happened because my soul, my consciousness created that experience for me to learn from.
Right.
And
And
your
go
numerology
ahead.
chart, and your numerology chart exemplifies that.
Right. And that is the hardest piece of work for people to do, is to go within, because it forces them to look at things they've kept hidden for a long time. And I think in all spirituality, and I always have this discussion even with my clients when I'm doing readings, we could do all manner of rituals, but if you don't start to do the healing from inside out, those rituals will only last, for a short period, some of them. But if you start from within and start digging out, all that stuff and dealing with it, you're looking at a completely lifestyle change, right? That is going to last with you forever,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Think about it like this. Say, for instance, you keep going to the Babalawo. The Babalawo is the
Right.
Ifa. And he says, okay, you need to do this ritual. You do the ritual. Things seem to be good for a couple of months, a year or so, and then all of a sudden it's back again.
Comes back again. Yeah.
Reason this happens is in your blueprint, but doing certain rituals, that doesn't burn karma.
Right.
Karma. That basically, if you look at karma like a debt, okay? Imagine you have a mortgage payment on a home, and then all of a sudden you get behind, and they let you refinance. You get I guess like in like with student loans or forbearance or something. I think that's what you call it, forbearance. And where it basically it gives you time to recuperate, so you then have the ability after you get a job to start paying your debt. That's what I look at with a lot of these rituals. Something happens, you're going through some issues, you do this ritual, all of a sudden things start to open up for you. But if you don't change your character, if you don't change
Yes.
the way you behave, then all of a sudden the door that was open for you, all of a sudden gradually starts closing again, because you're not self-reflecting, you're not going within and doing certain things to literally burn out your karma. So numerology is a blueprint that gives you a clear roadmap of what your purpose, your destiny, and your karma and life lessons are. And once you understand those things, you start working on those things and you start burning out your karma.
Karmic. I want to come back to karmic debt, but we have a very interesting question here from, what is your take on the number 13, and why has there been a widespread fear of this number? Is that some sort of Hollywood thing?
Well, I mean, if you go in a lot of buildings in the United States, they don't even acknowledge the
13th floor. Yeah, it's true.
And so it depends on how you look at it. I look at the 13 as a very good number, because the 13 represents the 12 zodiac and the sun. The 13 represents the 12 cranial nerves and the thalamus. The 13 represents uh, Christ and his 12 disciples. And so it just depends on how you look at it. It's a number of transformation, okay? But before you transform, something must die.
That's right.
You can't have a rebirth before death. So 13 is one of the numbers that are used for transformation. If you look at the back of your dollar bill, you have 13 stars, 13 arrows, 13, because it goes back to the 13 original colonies. But the 13 original colonies, the people that were the leaders of those colonies were Freemasons. And so when you're dealing with numerology and you're dealing with signs and symbols, the people who understand those signs and symbols use that to their advantage. So they may be using the 13 is not a negative thing. People may use it for their own agenda.
Ah.
But no, I don't think being negative. In numerology, the 13 is a karmic debt number that deals with work. It speaks about someone who needs to stay focused because they will tend to scatter themselves. They would tend to try to do too many things at one time. And they would also be an individual that may feel like that they would die before they would have time to finish all the things that they want to do in this life. So the 13 in its essence is not negative, but it does deal with staying focused, having clarity, and having a plan and having structure.
Okay.
So nothing is really negative, it's just how you use it.
That's how you use it. Okay. I have one other question here. Is numerology applicable if you jump from your sleep or wake up at the same time most days?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, that was the question. Is it applicable if you jump up from your sleep or wake up at the same time most days?
Yeah, if you don't have an alarm and you just keep waking up at that time, just check out and see what time it is, because the time of day is numerology, but those same numbers also correlate to things in the universe as far as astrological times. It also corresponds to different internal organs in the body. So, case in point, if you're a person that consistently gets up between 3 and 5, okay?
Thank you.
From a numerical standpoint, people will say, okay, I keep getting up at 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and I don't even set an alarm. I wake up every time at 3 o'clock. Well, the number 3 does have a meaning, right? But it also, astrologically, between 3 and 5 is the time that governs the lungs. And so this is the time period where they'll tell you between 3 and 5 is the best time to get up if you want to do meditation or tap into the next world or the other dimension. Okay? You can deal with grief, abandonment issues. So it just depends. So yes, these numbers have meaning, but also to go even deeper, you need to ask yourself, well, how does that apply to my body? How does that apply to, a particular organ? So it's not just knowing the number, the meaning, but it also can apply to the anatomy, the physiology of the human.
Right. With me as a spiritualist, we always say when you get up at those hours is the time that the universe or God or the ancestors want to talk to you, and they don't want anyone else to hear. Right. So for me, I get up at 3 o'clock almost most nights. And I know for sure there's something coming down the pipeline, either for me to do or pay attention to. And of course, at that time, I'm groggy. I'm like, really? Can we just work this out when the sun comes up? But that's not the case. And so you're on point with that. I have another question here. To explain the African origins of numerology.
Interesting.
Yes.
What they teach us, what they tell us, that numerology was first used on the Nile Valley in ancient Kemet. Some people will argue Babylon, some people will argue Egypt, but it most definitely, what we consider numerology was on the African continent well over 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago. You also, there are certain lineages on the continent today that use numerology even in their reading for newborn children. Now, most people don't really know that, but there are certain lineages. When I say lineages, I'm speaking about in Nigeria, that they use numerology along with the Odu to guide the newborn. So you have it on the continent that has nothing to do with a foreign culture. But the history of it goes back to the Nile Valley. That's the earliest we know of.
Okay. You mentioned before.
If you take my
Say that
class,
again.
if they take my class, they'll get more of the esoteric use of it. But it's most definitely, it goes back to Egypt.
Right. So let me give you some information here. If you're interested, I have to put on my readers, making sure that this growing old thing looks cute. If you're interested in getting a numerology reading, you can reach Baba at 903-241-6295. Can someone direct me as to how I can pin this on the actual show? But his number is 903-241-6295. I have another question here. Someone here is asking, how is 19-1 a life path versus energy?
Versus energy? What do they
Yeah,
mean?
versus energy, and then they have in parentheses karmatic.
Okay.
Right.
In numerology, you have 4 numbers that are considered karmic debt numbers: 13, 14, 16, and 19. The 19-1 is a life path 1, but it's considered a karmic debt number because what we have is called what we call a secondary number. The secondary number are the numbers that interact with each other before you reduce it to a single digit. In this case, if you have a 19-1, you have 1 and the 9. The 1 is about initiating. The 1 is about leading. The 1 is about, running things. It deals with leadership. And it can also deal with some ego. The 9 deals with compassion. The 9 deals with humanitarianism. The 9 deals with one love. And so when you have the 1 and the 9 together, many times there could be a conflict or some friction. And so that 19-1 is showing us that there may be some internal struggle. So it's predicated on the type of numbers that make up that particular one. The 19-1 is a number that deals with properly using power. It's a number that deals with authority. And it signifies that in previous incarnations, you were in leadership, but you used your power. And so in this life, you have to go through certain experiences to burn out the karma of the abuse of power that you exemplified in previous incarnations.
Okay. You mentioned before karmic debt.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that is, please?
Karmic debt basically, say for instance, in a previous life, you were an individual who had a family, right? And by circumstance, you end up leaving this family. When you leave this family, the people in the family may have grieved for you. They may have felt because of you leaving or scattering the family or leaving the relationship. And so karmic debt numbers basically show us the lessons based upon what you have done in previous lives. So if you were a person that maybe had scattered your family in a previous life, abandoned your family, then you want to learn the lesson and feel what others felt when you abandoned the family, when you scattered the family, or causing other people to grieve. So in this life, you would probably experience issues surrounding family and relationship dynamic.
So with the right. So with the reading now, this karmic debt comes up.
Yes.
Right? And then, but the good thing about it then is that we find solutions as to how to burn this debt or repay this debt, we can say, in managing that. Okay, got it. All right, so I have another question here. Well, that's where someone was just asking if the numerology reading can tell you about previous lives also, and does everyone have a previous life? So I guess that goes back to how you answered the question just now in regards to um, karmic debt, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So you also have, outside of the numerology classes, what other classes do you offer?
Uh, the actual numerology classes is several levels, and when we get into the second level, it brings in astrology to it.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, so basically, do numerology and astrology. I
mm-hmm,
also the process of being a practical, I guess you could say, like a sacred geometry
mm-hmm,
type of class online,
mm-hmm.
and and I also do, starting in the next 2 weeks, I also have a class on arisha from an esoteric.
It's so funny that you having this class on Arisha because I get asked, and this is pretty controversial, so sometimes I stay out of it, but you're a very reasonable person, I find. And don't just, get crazy. But there are a lot of folks who are interested in Orisha, what it means, what it is about, if it is something that they should be a part of, with not necessarily wanting to become initiated. They just have questions. And, I have been chastised for asking questions about Orisha, right? Because clearly, based on some of my own personal experiences, you know, I've gotten certain signs that this is a road that I should travel. Why is it okay that you are doing these classes when I know there's probably some pushback as to, well, if folks want to know about Orisha, they need to sit at the foot of an elder or they need to be initiated. What is your take on that?
Basically, I would say that a tradition that probably
Mhm.
is way out. And when I
Thank
mean
you.
what I mean by that
Thank
is this:
you.
if
Yeah.
I'm on the continent of Africa, traditionally things were oral from
Hmm.
mouth to ear, and
Hmm.
you had to be there with the teacher to learn.
Right.
Things things were not written down; they were passed over. So that's the origin of that. Okay.
Hmm.
When we moved to the new world or into the diaspora, still had that same mentality. Okay, and it's just, and on one level, it's a form of control. You ask me.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
if you want to learn something, I'm willing to teach you. Now, I mean, there may be some things I may not go into because that is for a initiate per se. But if you if you want to learn more about yourself and how to tap in to a archetypal energy, which what Arisha is,
Hmm.
you can do those things. See, what people don't understand, the mystery is not in a pot. When I
That's
mean,
right.
when you get with Orisha, do Orisha, they have certain shrines and pots and altars. The mystery is not in the pot. The mystery is in you.
Hmm.
And so when we talk about Shango, we talk about Oshun, we talk about Yemoja, we talk about all these different archetypal energies.
Hmm.
If you want to go down the road and get initiated in the Oshun, Yemoja, that's one thing. But if you want to learn how to tap in to that energy that dwells inside of you, you don't have to go get initiated,
Hmm.
because one of the things that they will tell you is, now that you've been initiated ceremonially, now it's time to go to initiate yourself.
Hmm.
So, what if you don't want to be a priest? What if you don't want to be a priest? What if you just want to learn how to become a better human being? What if you want to learn how to meditate properly? What if you want to learn how energy moves, but you don't want to be in a priesthood? You just want to learn. It may not even be in your destiny or your purpose to be of service in that capacity.
Right.
So from my standpoint, if you want to learn, I will teach you what I can teach you. Now, I'm not going to give you a bunch of mysteries of Shango if you don't want to be a Shango priest, but I will teach you how to tap in to the fire which Shango represents within.
Right. I also believe that because of what we're facing globally, right? Whether they want to call it a reset or whatever term they want to use, I think this time is forcing individuals like us who have been walking this spiritual road for how many years to really look at things differently as well, and how we approach others who also want to figure out how to go on their own journey, right? Someone here is saying the purge, right? Because even in some of our rituals as spiritualists, I'm not sure if we could be able to do some of those things anymore, right? In terms of how we use gin. I'm not going to go into, right? But you're smiling, so you know where I'm going with. So I think at this time is going to force some individuals who are stuck in some of these ways to have to change their mindset, right? And do as some folks are calling 2020 a mindset. I have one question here. Let me get to it, and then I have my own question. Are your classes group based or one-on-one?
Both.
Both. Okay, great. Do you also do numerology readings of the year? And if you do, how is that information disseminated? How do you share that information?
Do I do numerology?
A reading of so you know how like Ifa would do a reading of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that as well with numerology? And do you like how they would share it? Do you share it out in your groups, or do you how does that go?
Normally, what I do on an individual level is I will give you your yearly reading based upon your blueprint.
Okay.
You see, what I'm familiar, of course, with the yearly readings. I'm familiar with yearly readings coming out of IFE, coming out of different organizations, but that's what it is. It's a yearly reading for their people.
Mm-hmm.
I am of the fan that you should be looking for a yearly reading for your own self.
Gotcha.
It's like, okay, what is the yearly reading for us for the year of 2020? Okay, that's good. But what does that mean for you?
Right.
What is your yearly reading?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I focus on. But yeah, we can, we can do that. But my main focus is the individual and not 7.7 billion collective.
Right. Which I can appreciate. So I've just gotten the alert that I have 1 minute and 9 seconds to go. So I'm going to use that time to let folks know how they can get in contact with you. Telephone number is, please get your pen and paper. But I'm also going to post this conversation on my timeline, and I'll have the information there as well. So his telephone number is 903-241-6295. That's 903-241-6295. And you can find him on Facebook, GAN Philosophy. And your IG, I will also put that in your IG information. I also put that in the post. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This was amazing experience. And I'm going to have you back next month, and we're going to talk about astrology. I know we didn't talk about that before, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Peace.